Former UKIP councillor Stephanie Todd, pictured, was found guilty of stealing more than £46,000 from pensioner Philip Wall. A former UKIP councillor fleeced a vulnerable widower in his 90s of £46,000 after she found him wandering confused in the street. Stephanie Todd, 57, who was also her town's mayor and worked for an MEP, said she took Philip Wall, now 98, under her wing and looked after him because he had no one else. But as she played the Good Samaritan, she was systematically emptying his bank account and is now facing jail after being convicted of theft by a jury at Teesside Crown Court. She defected from the Conservatives in 2013, saying she wanted to stand up for Middle England and our traditional way of life. Her decision was lauded by Godfrey Bloom, MEP for Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire, who said at the time, "This is fantastic news and shows what I have always known, that we are the way forward for our country." In the 10 days leading up to Christmas last year, Todd withdrew £1,000 from Mr. Wall's account and also went on a spending spree in Marks and Spencer on his debit card. The World War II veteran who served in Egypt was described as frugal, refusing to pay for a taxi even when he needed to go to an urgent hospital appointment. But Todd told the jury it was him who went on the 3-year spending spree after she befriended him in August 2013. Prosecutor Paul Newcombe said Todd, from Catterick, North Yorkshire, persuaded him to change solicitors and write a new will, leaving his home and contents to her rather than a cat charity as HED intended. Todd, pictured outside Teesside Crown Court, managed to convince the World War II veteran who served in Egypt to change his will, leaving his estate to her rather than a cat's home. She also tried to gain power of attorney over his financial affairs, but the move never took place when the paperwork was not completed. Lisa Potts, a solicitor from Hunton and Gargett in the market town, had a lasting power of attorney and all his bank statements were sent to the firm. 5 months after meeting staff at the practice, Ms. Todd took the pensioner to a different solicitor's office, where a friend worked, and said he wanted to swap. A new will was drawn up later in 2014, leaving Todd, who said to have been in dire financial straits, as chief beneficiary. On November 5, Mr. Wall signed the will in the presence of witnesses at the new solicitor's office, and the defendant now stood, effectively, to inherit everything, said Mr. Newcombe. She had known him a little less than a year and a half. Ms. Potts, who returned from maternity leave, became suspicious over the change and noticed her office had stopped receiving Mr. Wall's bank statements. Along with colleague Claire Richardson, she visited the then 95-year-old as there were fears he was being manipulated, said Mr. Newcombe. Todd will be sentenced for stealing from Mr. Todd at Teesside Crown early next year. After Todd's arrest last June, the solicitors visited the pensioner's home again, and Ms. Richardson asked him about his will. In a recording played to the court, he said, "I put a large part of my estate over to her.